Brooke, I think it was actually pretty smart to interweave a goals series with our entrepreneurship, the making of a founder series. I feel like this was collusion. I feel like somehow you influenced me to have your two favorite topics be interwoven in the series that we're launching.
You came up with the whole thing. I mean, it was you did it. You're like, we should do this. I said, great, let's go. This is Fraud to Fearless.
Friends, you were made for more purpose, more confidence, more impact. Because when you live fearless, you inspire others to do the same.
Let's go.
For those of you listening, the goal of today is we are going to talk a little bit about short-term goals versus long-term goals. And I think, Brooke, at least for me, it is very easy for me to only think short-term, like less than a year. It's very difficult for me to think long-term, like 10 years. My daughter is 11 months old. I can't even imagine what 10 years is going to look like. But if I had goals that I was actively working towards for 5, 10, 15 years into the future, I imagine that would only benefit me as long as they were, as we talked about in the original goals episode, laid upon a solid foundation of me becoming a better person based off of my North Star and kind of my values and my brand. And Brooke, it's very similar like at Honeywell. We call it, every year we go through STRAP. We call it STRAP. It's our strategic plan, but essentially it's our where we're going to be 3 years into the future. So what is our company? What is all of our businesses? What are our functions going to look like in the next 3 years? And by planning into the future, we then are able to understand what does that mean about how we need to change and how we need to adapt today. What do we have to do this year for us to get to where we want to get in 3 years? And I think balancing short-term and long-term goals is really critical for you to continue to become that person that you want to be and that you're proud of, and that you'll live a fulfilling life and use goals to help you.
Business and life is so interwoven. Just the principles that you learn in business and seeing that through the lens of life, how much we can learn from it is so beautiful. So it's true. When I think about planning this last year, we looked at the year perspective, right? And I think there's different seasons because sometimes you can't see, you may have an overall idea of this is where I want to go, but defining it in a 1 year, 2, 3, unless you're kind of set and you have some good systems in place, that might be easier to predict. Sometimes it's the planning 1 year might be considered your long term, and you're looking at short term as month to month, right?
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the season, but seeing the bigger picture and then being able to break it down into, all right, give me some milestones. If I want to accomplish this in the year, am I going to look at this at a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis? How can I actually break this out? If you do that in business and you do that in life, the amount of progress that you make is unbelievable.
This is a similar approach that we took with our interns that, we've been managing, and you've really been taking the lead on their onboarding and their kind of weekly status updates and progress reports. But you do Brooke and I are really different leaders. And Brooke, like, I don't know your
I
takeaway
wish
and
that people were
reflection.
live. I wish people could guess. Pause this. Go put in the comments what kind of leadership style you guys think we have. I want to see if people are accurate, okay?
Yeah, I'm sure they are going to be accurate. But so we just had our interns did their midterm presentation, and they talked a little bit about the differences between like Brooke and I. And I think what's so interesting is as we onboarded the interns, Brooke did this amazing job of like teaching tools. And in a previous episode, we showed the Trello board that we did with the interns. And we went through and we showed a tool about how we document work. And Brooke's onboarding is incredible. And Hayden's, if roles were reversed, Hayden's would be like, all right, here are these big things that we're going to accomplish. Let's get this done. Go. And they would have a white sheet of paper and they would come back. And I imagine at first it would be a lot of feedback because I wouldn't give a ton of instructions. And like I can onboard and teach and stuff, but I think Brooke, you are very more hands-on in the onboarding process, but you were building them up to now be in a place where I mean, they could conquer the world. Like they can run this podcast. They know how to assign work. They have the foundation of everything that we've done to date. They know how social media works. They know our goals. And now they put together a vision of how they can finish out the summer. So kudos to your leadership. But it is very interesting to navigate just our very different leadership styles. This is very common when you work with multiple leaders, there are some, and like just reflecting on my leaders, Brooke, that I've had, there are some that are solely short term focused. I would say a solely short term focused leader is more tactical. They don't have quite as strategic of a mind where they're thinking big picture about how's HR going to change in the next 3, 5, 10 years? How's this business going to change? What are the skill sets that we're going to need in this business that we don't have today? And where are we going to get into trouble versus the short term of like, we have a project update next week. It's not done. Let's go do it now. Or like, oh my gosh, we have a target. We got to go figure out how we're going to hit that target. Let's go now. And it's like you're the squirrel chaser where you like see a squirrel running up a tree and then you go and then you turn around, there's another one and you go. But you don't understand where your location is at in this park. You have no idea where you are. You're just chasing squirrels.
Yeah, Hayden, I think a lot of that is, I would say, not really personality based, but it it's more pain points. Now push back if you see it differently, but I think as a leader, we focus on the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? What are the biggest pain points right now? If you feel like pants on fire, we have all of these things that are coming up. It's really easy and necessary for survival almost just to be focused on here's the next thing that we have to get done because plate is super full and we have to reach this deadline and this deliverable. I think where the long term comes into place is either you've experienced a pain point because you didn't pay attention to long term, or you're invested, you know that you're going to be in this role for a long time, or it's your business. You're the one that owns it. So you know if you don't figure this out now, probably from experience, it's going to grow and there's going to be issues that come later down the road, which forces you to think long-term goals. At least that's been my experience. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that lately, when I have been doing goal setting exercises, I like to think about goals in three different categories. So, category one is like short term, like a quarter goal, like an execution goal. Like, what is something that I want to go well in the next 90 days? Okay. So, it's like, this could be I want to ensure that me and Allie get 2 date nights. This could be I've got I'm going to Utah State. We have the in-person board meeting end of March. I want that to go well, you know, and stuff like that. Short term, like the next 90 days, like what's quickly on the horizon in my calendar. The second goal would be like a short term, but like a longer term goal. So not just 90 days, like in 2026, what does Hayden want to do? I want to continue to grow as a husband and a father. I want to continue to make health a priority with getting in the sauna, getting in the plunge, getting workouts in, and do it in the morning because my life gets real busy once work starts. So sneaking workouts in like habitually before work starts, I think is super important. Sneak peek, I've got some exciting news coming from a work perspective. So I want that to go well. So that's like an example of like the next 12 months. And then the third category is like North Star, mission statement, who's Hayden becoming? And this is like the next 3 to 5 years. What are some goals? So it could be a trip, it could be a new role, it could be how Allie and I want to spend our time, how we want to give back to the community, to our friends, to our family. Um, it could be an investment, it could be this podcast. I think by breaking goals down in three different areas, Brooke, that's really helped me think about goals holistically. And I also think that thinking in three different time ranges is very challenging when we consider short term and long term because I tend to really, I'm a dreamer. So it's easy for me to come up with a million things for the long term in particular. But it is difficult for me to think about long term goals that are actually rooted in my foundation of who I am. Whereas, like in 90 days and even this year, pretty easy. But to think 5 years into the future and even understand what my day to day looks like and who Hayden is in 5 years and what goals I should be thinking about, that's really difficult for me to do. Hold up. Today you get a surprise. In high school, my little brother was captain of the soccer team. And before every game, he led a chant. This is how it goes. Day by day, we get better and better until we can't be beat, won't be beat. Here's my challenge for you. I challenge you to do one thing today that stretches you. Reach out to someone you admire. Go get a coffee. Have the honest conversation that you've been avoiding. Volunteer to lead the next project or even sign up for a class that intimidates you. Heck, you could even go do a polar plunge. I can't be the only one that enjoys it. At Fraud to Fearless, fearless isn't about having no fear. It's about facing it. So start today, then share this episode with someone who needs the push. Together, we won't be beat. Back to the show.
Can I give you a different way to maybe look at it?
Yeah.
And what helps me and the clients that I work with when it comes to goals, everybody has a little bit different way that they do it, but maybe these principles can kind of help interweave with what how you're looking at it. When I think about goals, I break it up into what I call the 3 pillars of intentional living. So the first pillar is stewardship of self. This encompasses spirit, body, and mind. How am I taking care of those things in my life? We know that's foundational because it's like how we take care of ourselves in those areas is then going to pour into the next pillars. So pillar 2 is stewardship of relationships. So this is relationships, think spouse, significant other, family, extended family, and then um, steward of my children, those relationships, and then my home. What's the environment that I'm creating for people that come and visit me and the relationships that are formed there? So that's the second pillar, steward of relationships. And then the third pillar is stewardship of purpose. So this encompasses money, my talents, and my vocation. So vocation's interesting because it can encompass work, but it can also encompass what are the things I'm passionate about that I want to do that maybe I'm not even doing for money, but that just fill me up. And so, as you said, you're a dreamer. We're similar in this way. I say dream your biggest dreams. When we talk about goals and measuring, how do you measure a life? What is it that you're building towards that you want to become, the life that you want to live? I think that's where you start. You start looking at at the end of my life, what's the person that I wanted to become? What are the things that I want to experience? The things that I want to have? And dream your biggest dreams. And then we break it down from there. So using your same model, but breaking it down into smaller, all right, if this is what I want to do and experience and be in my greatest currently, right? In my greatest, highest aspirations, then how do I break that down into um, long term goals and short term goals?
Hmm.
Now, here's kind of my different perspective though, Hayden, is I think it's important to do this exercise regularly. I do this
Hmm.
yearly because a lot of times think back even on the last year or the last 5 years. The person that you were is probably completely different. I bet 5 years ago, the desires that you had, even for work, for your relationships, for the different aspects of your life, is probably way different.
Hmm.
So sometimes setting long-term goals is like we set this thing, and as we go on the path, we're like, wait, do I even want this anymore? Like we're
Totally.
building for this thing that changes later. So that's why I like to work backwards, but review often because you can change. Your dreams change. Things
And
change.
relationships with people change. Like, there's gonna be people that come and go in your life. Like Brooke, I had one of our classmates who works at Honeywell. She was in Charlotte, and so she came over and met Obs, and we had dinner, and we were just catching up, talking about who all we still are in contact with in grad school. And it made me reflect, Brooke, like, let's be real. I mean, we're great, and we're just so close. But if we didn't do this pod together, we would not talk like this. Like we would before
We went a
this
few years. We went a few
years.
years without
We
chatting, huh?
we're like besties, and now it's great. We text or talk like several days a week, sometimes every day. It's awesome. And so I think what's cool about the template that you just laid out is what I'm very proud of us for doing is we synced goals up together. So in my head, the vision of me and you doing this together was always for me and you to do this together. Like I didn't want to run a podcast like by myself and you help me be all entrepreneurial. It's like, no, I want to do this with you. And like we do this together. And like, Brooke, it is just sometimes it's so hard. Like, y'all, I was delinquent tonight. I had a dinner with a big leader and I was 30 minutes late to a recording. And then there's sometimes, Brooke, it's like we are doing a lot of this in the cracks, but we're figuring it out together and we're getting there together. But Brooke, if you're up for it, what if we take your template and just real time, authentic, genuine, pop the hood with your three foundations? What if we each say a quick example of like a goal in each of those three areas?
Okay. So, um, let me back up a little bit. And yes, I think we can. But let me share kind of the process of this. So, first, you have to define what success looks like. If money, time, people's opinions of you did not matter, what would you want for that area of your life? So, if people's opinions, time, money, did not matter, what would you actually say that you wanted? Now, usually that it can look like something ambiguous. People don't have like a defined, it's a lot of times it's a feeling or an experience, or this is the character traits that I would want to have or what I imagine myself doing. And so once you come up with that, then we'll have to distill it down into how do we make that actionable so that you can actually start doing that today. So
Okay.
do you want to go for it?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. You want to choose one aspect, one area of intentional, one of the pillars, or
Yeah. Why don't we just pick one pillar and then we both give an example?
yeah, I think that's great. I
Yeah.
think it could be cool to if you and then we could walk through what that looks like, the
Yeah,
breakdown of it.
cool.
Okay, let's do
Okay.
it.
Which one do you want to do?
Okay, Hayden, so options, just as a reminder, the first pillar is stewardship of self, so that could be anything to do with spirit, body, mind.
Yeah.
Relationships would be relationships in general, children, home, and then purpose, that's talents, money, vocation.
Yeah. We have spent a fair amount, I think, talking about relationships. So let's do the last one. I think we can have some fun with this category. And the intent, you want me to like walk you through a goal. How about instead of a goal, what if I describe for you my vision of who I
Yes,
am? Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
give me the vision.
yeah. Here's the juicy deets. When I think about how I use my talents and work and who I am as a person, I want to see how far I can go, Brooke. I want to be a big leader. I'm just a kid from Cache Valley who somehow found his way to being a leader in one of the biggest companies in the world. And sometimes I blink and I don't even know how they're letting me do this stuff. Um, but yeah, it's hard for me sometimes not to just wake up and be like, I'm just a kid from Utah. Like, are you sure you want me to do this? This is kind of why I started a podcast about imposter syndrome. Um, but I feel that I have a unique ability to get to know people and bring out their best. And when I know everybody, my ability to connect people together from different religions and different cultures. I'm an adventurer, Brooke. I'm an explorer. I'm a thrill seeker. Like, I want to, when I'm done, when all is said and done and my time here is done, I don't want to have any regrets. I want to see the world. I want to meet people. I want them to teach me what their favorite meal is that they make for their family. Like, what do they eat on their big holidays? Like, I want to learn this stuff. I want to be a big leader that has influence on people's lives, that I was a pivotal moment in them giving themselves permission to be great. And I think ultimately for me, what this is most likely going to look like is I spend my time in different projects. So I think you can probably assume that by now. It's like I have my corporate job. I run this podcast. I do recruiting at Utah State. Like, I get involved in a whole bunch of stuff. I don't just work a 9 to 5 job. Like, I'm trying to build a portfolio of things that I spend my time doing. And I think I want to continue to expand that, whether that's consulting, whether that's having businesses. And then the last thing that kind of applies to all three, I have this foundational belief from Dan Clark, the Hall of Fame motivational speaker. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I don't necessarily want to just be a super successful businessman. I want to be very intentional in who I work with. And I want them to be part of the 5 people. And I always want to be assessing how I'm spending my time, who my top 5 people are. And I want to be very selfish in the projects that I put my time in. So, way longer answer than I was expecting, but that would be my vision.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I think that's a perfect way to model it because that's the way that you want to do it. I think sometimes when we think about goals, we feel so limited because we've heard of these different frameworks of how we build it out and what it needs to look like. But what you did was perfect. You're just supposed to dream and put
Mm,
it all out there. So I was trying to take notes of all of the things. Now, you talked about how you have these specific gifts of connecting people across religions, across countries, and getting to know them deeply. You want to adventure. You want to experience different cultures. You want to have no regrets. You want to be a leader that has influence in people's lives. You gave some clues to what that looks like of giving themselves permission, right? The list goes on. So there's maybe, I don't know, a good 10 to 15 things there. Now, what I would say is I would take each of those categories and I would break them down. So, does one stand out to you the most? One that you're like, let's dive into this one and break it down into something that you can measure and make sure you're working towards right now, today, out of all those things that you listed. Let's pick one.
I think be a leader that gets the most out of people, like that influence them to be their greatest. Let's pick that one.
This is good. So, in order to be a leader that influences others, do you think, right? Because right now you're a leader. Tell me what the gap is that you see. Do you feel like you're influencing people at the level that you want to be? Um, Give me more context. Demonstrate this is kind of vulnerable, right? But what's the gap right now? What does that look like?
Yeah. So far I've influenced, but the majority of my influence has been people that don't report to me. So the next phase of my career will be having a big team that reports to me directly and influencing them on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So, your definition of influence in this context would be the people that report to you. There has to be people that are reporting to you and the impact that you're having on their specific lives.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is good. We're defining what success looks like. So then when we think about the influence that you're going to have on these people, you said giving themselves permission to be great. Is that in this, was this in that goal or is this
We
something
can use it.
separate?
We can use it. Yeah.
Okay. So let's define, what does that mean? What is that going to look like for you to show up and influence their life? Is this just a work perspective? Is this their whole life? What does that actually look like? If you just took one person and you picture that person that's reporting to you, how are you showing up?
Yeah. I think that true leadership is that person is a better all around person because they worked with me. So they had an example of what work life integration looked like. They were better at work, they were better at all aspects of work because they learned from me. And I give them opportunities to shine and excel and grow. Like at the end of my career, I want to have a tree of folks that worked for me that were even more successful than I was. And they learned how to do it right because they worked for me.
Okay. This is great. So I hear two different things. One thing we have to be careful of, because you said that they are a better all around person because they worked with me.
Mm,
Now, this is a dependency because you can't control people. You also
mm,
can't control how they experience you, but you can create an environment. So if you set your goals around the decisions that other people make or around who they're becoming, mm-mm. But I like something else that you said. You're thinking about it the right way of, I want to give them opportunities to shine. You can do that. That's what you can control. So, um, you think about the environment that you want to create for them so that they have every opportunity to be better as a person, but it's not dependent on if they do it or not. This is the same thing with parenting.
mm,
Why so many people get sad as their kids get older, they make different decisions and they think, I failed as a parent. Cannot tie your goals, your worth, or whatever it is to the outcomes of somebody else. So I would dive into this piece of, what kind of environment do I create that equals them becoming a better all around person? And so, I mean, we could keep diving into this, Hayden. I don't know what time we're at.
this was a good representation for me. I mean,
Okay.
I'm sweating over here, guys. So,
Okay.
for those of you that need a coach, you just got a great demo of what a legit freaking coach looks like because that was
Uh,
awesome.
Thanks, Hayden. No, so overall, like I would just drill down like this. I would go in and I would say, okay, well, to me, the environment would be, I'm probably checking in with them. I know more about their life. They know that I care about them. How do they know that I care about them? because I have one-on-one meetings with them, or maybe I remember their birth, whatever, however you define that. So then, Hayden, because you're going to have so many other pressures that come into this role, that you're going to have deadlines and deliverables on your plate. There's going to be things that need to happen. But if this is what you want, this is what you prioritize. So when there's two competing things, you're going to remember, how did I define creating this environment for them? Because this is the legacy and the impact I want to have. I'm going to choose this over this. I'm going to choose to strategically fail in this other area because this is what's going to build me. It's hard to get in the, again, thinking about high level and then short term goals. In the moment, you have the big vision, you break it down and define it. And then in the moment when those decisions are hard and you're in the day-to-day grind, people are sick and whatever else, you remember this is why. This is what matters most. And you're going to be building from now. I
That
can't
was
wait to
great.
see it.
That
It's
was
going to come.
masterclass. Yeah.
It's
No,
good.
Brooke, it was that was great. Yeah, I mean, I saw the fire. Yeah.
I love it. I think doing this in every aspect of your life is life changing. And taking the time to really sit down and think about, what do I want? How does this align with my values? And am I making decisions today that are going to influence that? And how can I actually define it and measure it? It's one of the most fulfilling things. And I think if you can look at goals from that perspective, it becomes not even goals, it becomes living, actually living.
I would say short-term goals builds proof. It builds evidence. It builds support that you can do it. Long-term goals builds your brand. It builds your identity. It builds your reputation. And so navigating both is important. And really, you need to understand what the long-term goals are and like the foundation are to then know what your short-term goals should be. So both of them go together. Don't just be someone that only sets goals for like the next 6 months. If that's all you've done so far, that's okay. But think about if you had to like, Brooke just walked me through, think into the future, long-term goals about where you want to be, how you want to spend your time, what do you want to use your talents on? Dream, just like brain dump. Just write a whole bunch of stuff down and then either do it yourself or like find you an amazing coach like Brooke to have someone literally like walk you through each section and like give you templates and tools to be able to break that down into short-term goals that then feed into your long-term goals.
And Hayden, I would say the last comment on this is allow yourself to pivot.
Mm.
Sometimes going back to where we started, you might think, okay, well, this is how I'm defining being an influential leader or whatever your long term goal is. And you start to get into it and you have all these one on ones or whatever else. And you're like, this is not either I don't like this or it's not impacting the way that I thought that it would. Sometimes we get so committed to that thing that we feel like we're married to that goal and we can't pivot. It's fine to say, all right, I have the bigger vision. This is not getting me here. So let's pivot and try something else. And that's okay. That's not failing. That's remembering what's most important, trying something new.
Love it. Close us out, Brooke.
All right, you guys, long term, short term goals, wherever you're at in the journey, we'd love to hear what some of your dreams are. Tell us what your biggest dreams are. If you're having problems with how do I break down this ambiguous thing, send it our way. Maybe we'll choose a couple. We'll help you break it down. And we want to see you live your dreams. Live the life you're here to live. That's who we are. Team Fearless. Live the life. Go after the things that you want to go after. We love you guys. We'll catch you next time. For now, that's the pod.